All right, so that probably sounded really interesting, and you're probably wondering how I pulled that out of Serum. Well, as the title of this video may suggest, I figured out a way to basically to approximate granular synthesis in Serum. Um, so I'm going to show you how to do that and how to get similar results, but before that we need to kind of talk about what granular synthesis really is. So granular synthesis is a form of synthesis where you start with a sample. So let's take this little bongo loop, for example. So yeah, you get the idea. And what we do with granular synthesis is we take like a small slice of that, right? Let's delete these other bits. Take a small slice of that, and we can loop that slice and just play it back. And then we can also kind of scan through the waveform so that like you can imagine like when we scan around here, not much interesting stuff is happening, but then when you get over here, we get all these little tick, 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 really fast sort of transients going on, and then we move through here, and then we kind of scan through all the different parts of the sound, and it can sound very similar to some time stretching algorithms, because that's essentially what some time stretching algorithms do. So yeah, you can get some really interesting sounds out of granular synthesis. And I figured out a way how to get pretty much exactly the same result out of Serum. It's not quite the same, we'll get into why later, but sound-wise, like the sound that you produce with it, it's very, very similar. So let's dive into Serum, go to the initial preset, and then let's see how we do this. So I'm predictably going to import a sample into the wavetable, but I'm not going to do it with any of these standard things here. The reason why is when I do this, is it going to crash? Oh boy. It's going to try to cut it up to be like individual waveforms, and that's cool and all. You can get some cool wavetables out of that if you do it with the right samples. But that's not what I'm after. I'm looking to play back bigger chunks of the sound. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to open the wavetable editor, and I'm going to type a big number, let's say 4,000 into here. And this basically tells Serum that the next time we import a sample for becoming a wavetable, it's going to cut it up into frames once every 4,000 samples. So 4,000 samples is roughly a tenth of a second. So we're going to drag that in, and now we can see that this is pretty much an entire bongo hit on just one frame of the wavetable. So this is already a step closer to what we want, but of course when we play this, it's playing this through really, really, really fast, and that's not what we want. We want this to play back at more or less the original speed. We can play around with playing it faster or playing it slower, but for now, let's get just to playing it back at the original pitch. Luckily, that's very easy because when we typed in 4,000, Serum also gave us a note value. It said F-2 and 18 cents. So we need to make sure we're playing that note. So in this MIDI clip, I have a low F, F1, and then I'm going to drop this oscillator down like 3 octaves, and then we're pretty much there. We can just, if we want to be really precise, we can even add the 18 cents on the fine tuning there. And now when we play this, we're essentially looping the first part of this bongo loop. And you can hear that if I move the wavetable position around, let's do that with an LFO, that we're kind of scanning through the different parts of the sample. Yeah, so it's pretty interesting, but it's not quite as cool of a result as you can get with granular synthesis. And a big part of the reason why is because with granular synthesis, you might have multiple grains playing back at different parts of the sample. Luckily, there's a way to do that in Serum as well by using the Unison. So we're going to turn up the Unison count to really, it's kind of arbitrary. You can do whatever you want. We can detune it a bit to get a bit more of a random sound. But for now, let's just leave it completely in the same tuning. And what we're going to do now is we're going to head over to the global tab and mess with this wavetable positions thing. Now I'm going to set it to 50. What this does is it basically instructs Serum that for every voice of Unison, it's going to offset the wavetable position. So one voice is going to play this part of the wavetable, and the next voice is going to play this part, and the next voice is going to play this part, and so on and so forth. So I set that to 50 on the global tab, and then I'm going to reduce my LFO to 50 as well, so that we don't kind of overshoot it. Although you can intentionally overshoot it and see if you get some cool results. I'll leave the experimentation up to you. And yeah, by doing this, we're essentially playing different parts of the sample back at the same time. And at this point, it's starting to sound really cool, especially with a touch of reverb. And you can totally see how if you find the right sounds to use this technique with, you can get some really, really cool atmospheric sounds. So there's a few more things that we can still do to get a little bit closer to granular synthesis. One of the things is with granular synthesis, if we have one of these grains, what will sometimes happen is it'll get like kind of a fade in and a fade out. And this is to prevent kind of clicks at the beginning and the end of the grain. So with this sample, it doesn't really matter all that much because it's quite percussive and it's a lot of very short sounds rather than more sustained notes. So it won't make a big difference here, but if you find that you want to apply fades, you can do that. You can go into the wavetable editor and click Process Fade Edges Grid Size. So that's going to apply a fade at the grid size. So you can change the grid size here, so we can do sort of fades of different sizes. So we can just do that real quick. Fade edges grid size, and we can see that it turned the sample down a bit towards the edges. Yeah, so it doesn't make a very big difference to the sound. It sounds pretty much exactly the same, but yeah, that's that. Now, another thing we can do is all of our voices of Unison, we can play them back at a different pitch by messing with this detune. And it starts to get pretty interesting when you do that. Now, when you're doing this, you might feel that the maximum value on this detune range isn't far enough. Luckily, the global tab saves us once again because we can increase sort of the range of this detune knob here by increasing this number at the top that says range. So we can go all the way up to 48 semitones, which is ridiculous, quite frankly. So we can just set it to something really high and then, wow. Let's see, I'm just curious now, like I wonder how bad this will sound. Wow. Actually, I think that sounds pretty freaking interesting. Huh. I hadn't tried this before I started recording this, so that's pretty interesting. Maybe if we play an even lower note, it can... Awesome, very interesting. We can even fuck with the LFO shape and do kind of a wilder, less predictable shape. Oh, that's cool. We could go even a step further and like modulate the speed of the LFO, but I already did a video on using or abusing that feature in sound design with Serum. But yeah, kind of got off track and discovered a couple cool new things there. So I think that's pretty much all there is to this technique. Let's summarize it real quick. Go into the wavetable editor, type a big number like 4000, import a sample, fade the edges if necessary, turn up the unison, detune if you want, LFO to the wavetable position, and in the Unison or in the global tab, this wavetable position thing, also set that to like 50 or something. Yeah, so that's real quickly summarized how you can turn Serum into a granular synthesizer. And yeah, that's pretty much it. So thank you very much for watching. I hope you learned something, and I hope you get some cool results if you decide to use this technique. You can join my Discord server, hit me up there, talk about production, ask questions. Also, if you have any questions, you can leave it in the comments. Like, subscribe, all that good stuff. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.